E opener. We say hello and welcome here from Port of Spain, Trinidad, the capital city of Trinidad and Tobago. I'm Sam Goldfarb, thrilled to bring you all of the action in Group E this afternoon as you get your look at a warm day in Trinidad and Tobago. 84 degrees Fahrenheit. It was high as 86 earlier today. A windy afternoon and a very humid one at that, as to be expected for any time of year in the Caribbean. Well, as we get a look at Group E, there are 4 teams, of course. The winner of this group will qualify for the Concacaf U20 Championship later this year. Canada and Trinidad and Tobago, the 2 favorites. Canada would be the heavy favorite. Meanwhile, you saw it on paper. Dominica, the true David in this group of Goliaths. They will need to pull off a couple of surprise results to legitimately contend for a potential berth in this year's U20 Championship. Well, for Canada, it is just their second appearance in the U20 qualifiers, of course, often automatic qualifiers. But since finishing third in the last 2 U20 championships, they've been forced to endure this qualifying stage. Of course, last year it was no problem for them. They outscored opponents 40-1 in just 4 matches as one of the more dynamic attacking sides. Many of the key players from that run return here for this campaign. On the other side of things, Dominica, much rockier go of it in 2023 qualifying, a team that did not manage a goal. So when you look at this on paper, it seems to be staunchly in Canada's favor, although you play the matches on the pitch, not on paper. For Canada today, it will be interesting. A team that's trotted out one of its best 11s. Of course, 3 games coming in a 5-day span, and trotting out one of their better lineups that's available to them. We will touch on that in a bit. But the headliner will be Annabelle Chukwu, who is the all-time youth international goals record holder. On the other side for Dominica, a much younger squad, one that has gone through significant turnover since the last qualifying campaign, in which they finished at the rock bottom of their group. A team that has not won a qualifying match since the year 2014. So they choose to do it today. It would be one of the bigger upsets in continental football, especially at the youth international stage. For Canada, a team, of course, led by Cindy Tai, and has been there since 2022, who guided Canada back to the Women's World Cup this past year. A team that reached the round of 16, and a squad that, as we mentioned, brings back many of the talents that got them there. A Dominica side that has never qualified for the Concacaf U20 Championship, let alone has sniffed the U20 Women's World Cup. Well, when you look at this match on paper, Canada's side that, of course, is known for its attacking prowess. We mentioned the dynamic number 9 up front. A Dominica squad that is just looking to solidify things at the back. A team that is playing, of course, their normal goalkeeper in goal, but as well a listed goalkeeper as an outfield player today. We will touch on that in a bit. Rosalia Registe, a small squad by this competition standards, not even filling out her subs bench today. A pair of goalkeepers on the bench, and then a couple of creative talents. The player to watch will be Lamaya Ford and Eden Lander, 2 players who stuck out and earned senior call-ups. Of course, Eden Lander scoring one of Dominica's just 3 goals in the Jewels of the Caribbean tournament that they competed in December. It was a developmental tournament that was actually played in this very country, in Trinidad and Tobago. Dominica struggling in that tournament, losing all 4 matches and scoring just 3 goals. But Eden Lander was the creative playmaker that will certainly be tipped to create anything for Los Pericos today. We see the 2 teams entering the fray. It is Janet Okiki captaining things for Canada. On the other side, Diamond Daniel, the goalkeeper for Dominica, the captain for Los Pericos this afternoon. Well, 2 teams taking the pitch. We will step aside briefly here when we return a look at the lineups and kickoff from Port of Spain.
ladies and gentlemen, we now invite you to please stand for the national anthem for Canada, followed by Dominica.
Well, we welcome you back to Port of Spain, the capital city of the Trinidad and Tobago. It is Canada and Dominica set to kick Group E action off in the Concacaf U20 Women's Qualifiers. A Canada squad that roared through this competition a year ago in Group A, a Dominica side that is looking for its first goal in the last few cycles. They were shut out in 3 matches a year ago. Well, time to take a look at our starting lineups today for Canada and Dominica. We mentioned a Canada side that is star-studded, and Cindy Tai has opted to put out one of her best 11s that's really been available to her personnel-wise. A team that trots out a 4-4-2. You'll see it in a moment, and you get your look at the Canada squad now. Up front, the standout performer, Annabelle Chukwu, who, as we mentioned, set the Youth International goals record in Canada. Now, whose record did she break? Christine Sinclair, arguably the greatest Canadian player ever. She's partnered by Leah LaRouche, the Butler product, making her debut. The officials today, Shandor Wilkinson out of St. Kitts and Nevis. Overseeing things, Santa Medina, Denisha Isaacs, and Narisa Goldson are her 3 assistants. As the captains trot out, it's Janet Okiki for Canada, the 18-year-old center back, and Diamond Daniel, the 18-year-old goalkeeper, exchanging pleasantries before this first ever meeting in CONCACAF U20 qualifying between these 2 sides. On the other side of things for Dominica, a squad that is not very deep for Rosalia Registe, Lamaya Ford, the standout, as well as Eden Lander. You see her on the right flank. It's a makeshift defense. Segura St. Rose and Tamisha Pierre-Louis are the center back pairing, and Diamond Daniel, the 18-year-old with 2 senior caps, is starting between the sticks for Dominica this afternoon. We are just about set for kickoff in Group E action in CONCACAF U20 Women's Qualifiers in the 2nd day of the tournament. Dominica squad that is looking to pull what would be one of the biggest surprises in this competition's young history, a Canada squad that is just hoping for business as usual after annihilating its competition a cycle ago to qualify with ease atop what was Group A in the 2023 CONCACAF U20 qualifiers. Canada, Le Rouge in its usual red with the white numbers, Dominica in the green with white numbers. As these two teams look to start group play on the right foot, the women's under-20 qualifying stage. Well, for Canada, it is about rebounding from what was perhaps a somewhat hasty exit from the Women's World Cup last year, falling in the round of 16. For Dominica, hoping to make some progress and win potentially its first qualifying match in the Concacaf U20 qualifiers since 2014. Underway here from Ato Boldon Stadium in Trinidad and Tobago, just outside the capital city of Port of Spain. We mentioned for Canada, a side that has found themselves regulars not only in the Concacaf U20 Championship under Cindy Tai and beyond, but one that also has made its way to the Women's World Cup, and Cindy Tai guiding them there in 2024. A side that escaped the escaped the group stage, I should say, for the first time in the better part of a decade. Fell in the semifinals, the round of 16 to Spain, on the semifinals of the Concacaf U20 Championship. She'll be hoping for business as usual today as Canada strolls forward. Chukwu loses it. Can expect Canada to be on the front foot for the bulk of proceedings this afternoon. Here's LaRouche, the Butler University product. Flashes in across. It settles, and it's a decent first-time effort from Kaylee Hunter that sails over the bar. On the other side of things, Rosalia Registe, the head woman of Dominica's under-20 side since last year, coached Dominica as well at the Jewels of the Caribbean tournament at the end of 2024. It was a struggle for Los Pericos, though, not winning a single match, and they were outscored 22-3 in the competition. It's a long free kick taken by Selena Lancaster, who, oddly enough, will be playing under Cindy Tai's tutelage at Dalhousie University next year in Canada. She's a Canadian-born center back who plays against her future college coach today. Hernandez Gray, with the young prodigies in this Canada side, plays it into Hunter, and the flag is raised on the near side. There's your look at Lancaster. Not every day you see a player matched up against their future coach. Of course, former coach in the club game, a more common occurrence. She will pick out the standout forward, Lamaya Ford. Does win the first proper free kick of the contest. Well, you see here, Ford just shrugged off it by Ava Greco, and ultimately Greco is less than pleased with the whistle. You figure set pieces perhaps the best opportunity for Dominica to score this afternoon. Might need a more appetizing delivery than that, though. Well, there's your look at the Canada goalkeeper, Noelle Hennig, Michigan State commit, playing in the States next year. Started the final 3 U20 Women's World Cup games in September, including the 2-1 defeat against Spain in the round of 16. Canada continuing to surge forward. It's loose and put in the back of the net. Flag stays down and Canada strikes inside 5 minutes. And it is the debutante, Leah LaRouche, who opens the scoring for LaRouche. Well, if you're Cindy Tai, that is the ideal opening. Leah LaRouche breaking the deadlock inside 5 minutes. Just finished her freshman season at Butler University and opens her U20 scoring account for Canada. It's an inviting run forward, and you see just a miscommunication at the back. Falls very kindly for LaRouche, who gives Canada the early advantage.
And that was the first goal for this evening from Canada.
Perhaps hunting more carnage.
Leah LaRouche in the 5th minute.
A ferocious challenge just outside the area. Hunter. And this is Chukwu. Always the danger woman. She'll lay it off wide. Cross towards the back stick is out for Dominica's first goal kick of the day. You figure for Diamond Daniel and company, it will be an early and often onslaught. Canada side that, as we mentioned, put 40 in beyond foes in just 4 games in the last cycle. And even in the Women's World Cup against top tiers of competition, scoring 13 goals in just 4 matches. So very dangerous. Here's the low cross, falls to Hunter, and it's 2 for Canada. This time the flag stays down, and Kaylee Hunter doubling Canada's lead. What is how most script writers would have drawn it up in the pre-match. You see this terrific ball in, coming from what looks to be Shuley, and it just sits very nicely for Hunter, the 17-year-old, who dispatches it calmly. A good cross in the end from Sienna Gibson, and no mistakes from Hunter, who was the youngest U20 call-up in last year's wave of friendlies against the United States. That's her second goal for the U20s.
And that was the second goal scored by Canada, number 7, Kaylee Hunter, in the 7th.
Well, at this rate, it could be a long qualifying stage, and a long 90 minutes at that for Dominica. You would have hoped to hold out for at least until the quarter of an hour mark and then try to create some intrigue, but unsurprisingly struggling with this star-studded Canucks roster. Here's Cullen. Already making some marauding runs down the near side. Cullen again. He's deflected out of play for the match's first corner. Fullbacks already creating danger for Canada, and a goal directly off of one of their runs forward. And we'll see what they can conjure from their first set piece. Cullen weaving towards the byline. It falls nicely, and Gibson dispatches calmly. 3-0 inside 10 minutes for Canada, and Gibson already with a goal and an assist to her name. It's been fullbacks galore early, this time Cullen making the run. Gibson alters her trajectory well and puts it top bins with no mistakes. There's no real chance there for Daniel, and no one closes her down. Dominica paying the price for being on the back foot early. As Sienna Gibson, the student at University of British Columbia, 18 years of age, having a direct hand in 2 of Canada's 3 tallies. Pretty good start to her U20 debut. Someone who's been a mainstay throughout the U15 and 17 ranks. And of course, a regular starter at University of British Columbia as well. She'll surge forward again. Hernandez-Gray. Chukwu. And this is Cullen. Already a lively start for her, and just played it right behind Hunter. Well, 10 minutes gone, and a trio of goals already for LaRouche. Leah LaRouche opening the scoring, and then the floodgates have opened since. Kaylee Hunter and Sienna Gibson tacking on tallies themselves. And so far, if you're a Canada supporter, you are quite content with how things have unfolded early. They're threatening for more as well. Chukwu. Colin unattended, and she finishes. Both fullbacks with a goal and an assist already. Jada Collin rewarded. Wisconsin product. Assisted the last goal. No one closes her down here, and it's just target practice. A training ground finish for the right back, and it's 4 for Canada. Well, Colin, 19 years of age, just finished her freshman season at Wisconsin, playing power conference football for the Badgers. And she continues to run forward here, looking for the cutback this time. And can't find Chukwu's feet. Now the follow-up cross to Chukwu, and the first save of the afternoon for Diamond Daniel. Well, there is your look at the captain of Dominica for these qualifiers. Made her senior debut during the Jewels of the Caribbean tournament. And has been subject to an early bombardment as there's a player down for Dominica. And it is the converted outfield player, Anisha Henry, who is slow to get up. You have to wonder what goes through Rosalia Regis's mind at the minute. Someone who dealt with adversity with the senior side in the Jewels of the Caribbean tournament. On the other side, I'm sure Cindy Tai is more than pleased with what's transpired thus far. Someone who's continued Canada's legacy as one of the best teams in the region at the youth level. Henry will limp off slowly. Remember, we mentioned off the top, it is a thinner bench than most for Dominica, a side that hasn't even used all of its substitute slots. 2 of them occupied by goalkeepers as well. And I mentioned Anisha Henry, the woman currently on the touchline who plays as a goalkeeper more naturally, is listed as such on the roster, but an outfield player here in this opening stage of qualifying. Well, if you are just joining us, we welcome you to Ato Boldon Stadium in Trinidad and Tobago, just outside Port of Spain, the capital city. It is 4-0 Canada. 4 different goal scorers already striking. And oddly enough, Annabelle Chukwu, not one of them. Canada's all-time leading goal scorer at the youth level. Very few touches of it so far, and everyone else on Canada benefiting from the increased attention she's drawing from this Dominica back line. I don't think she'll be complaining, though. Canada is well and truly in the driver's seat as Chukwu does get free, but the flag is raised. A player who scores goals for fun. 28 in 34 appearances entering today from the U15 through U20 levels, and unsurprisingly has gotten looks with the senior team. She was called up as a 15-year-old, still has yet to debut, but given her youth pedigree, it only seems to be a matter of time before that happens. Anytime you're mentioned in the same sentence as Christine Sinclair, it's usually a good sign. Gibson. And this is Hunter. Options in the box. Goes low. It's cleared only as far as Gibson again. It's stabbed away. As Ford gives chase. Hernandez-Gray. And this is Cullen. Frees herself from her defender. And perhaps an overzealous challenge there from the oncoming Canadian Ines Nourani. You see Nourani's gets there late and, yep, dangles the boot, leg-to-leg contact. He'll draw the official's ire almost every time. Chukwu. And this is Hunter. Looking back for Chukwu. Still has yet to score her first. Falls for Hunter. Dominica able to clear their lines for the moment. Backline under fire so far. This is Hernandez-Gray. Excellent stop. And the follow-up header sailing over the crossbar. Diamond Daniel slowly beginning to gain comfort. It's a good effort here from Hernandez-Gray. And the follow-up header, not poor by any means, just got underneath it a bit much. It's a save for the cameras. And a second not required. Gibson again. Already a direct hand in half of Canada's 4 goals. Bypassing her defender with ease. It's cleared only as far as Greco. Pinging it towards Chukwu. It can't quite steer the header on target. Beginning to get into some soft spots in the back line. Canada, remember, dominating their group a season ago in qualifiers. A squad that, for the most part, has been exempt from qualifying. The way it used to work, depending on the tournament size, top 12 to 16 usually were able to bypass qualifying altogether. And Canada, being third in Concacaf, had no issues there at the U20 level. But with the alteration of format, you need to make the final to avoid that. And as a result, with back-to-back third-place finishes in the U20 Championship, Canada has been tasked with getting through this stage as Hernandez-Gray loses it out of play. Of course, last year, no trouble. It was a 4-match group stage a year ago, and Canada putting 40 past their 4 opponents. This one certainly threatens to get to double digits at this pace. You do wonder, though, when you look at the landscape of the group, whether a team like Trinidad and Tobago, especially if they can take care of business against Bermuda in front of their host fans, perhaps more of a attractive matchup on paper. Well, 20 gone, and the scoreline is the same after 10 minutes. 11, I should say. Jada Collin scoring moments after the clock at the 10-minute mark. 4 different goal scorers for Canada, both fullbacks, a direct hand in 2 of them, in Jada Collin and Sienna Gibson. And here is the latter of those 2 in Gibson. Well, she's been very busy. Dominica has rarely been able to escape their own half. And a side that entered today as the clear underdogs on paper. They're the 4th lowest ranked team in the tournament and trying to punch above their weight. It's a tough start, to say the least, getting matched up with the best team on paper in the tournament. As Canada strolling forward again, Narani is not able to identify Chukwu. Collin bounces in front and tapped in. A 5 spot for Canada in the first and a brace for Kaylee Hunter. Well, once again, good things happening down the flanks for Canada, and Hunter the beneficiary. You see the link up between Narani and Collin, and it's just this low cross which has unlocked Dominica on a number of occasions today. And Hunter, the woman waiting, dispatching of it with relative aplomb. Just beyond the 20-minute mark, Canada's put 5 past Los Pericos. Hunter, the Calgary, Alberta native. One of very few players from Alberta. Heavy concentration of the Canadian team hailing from Quebec or British Columbia. Hunter, the player for AFC Toronto, who's beginning her professional career in women's football in Canada. Off to a fantastic start to this qualifying stage. Has already tripled her output for the U20s. Greco. Miscommunication between herself and Collin, it seems. Well, hydration break midway through this first half. It has been bossed by Canada to no neutral surprise. Dominica struggling to just play out of their own half. It has been overwhelmed by the star-studded talent of Le Rouge. A warm day, of course, in Trinidad and Tobago. Temperatures just south of 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and the humidity very high as well. So players get a quick breather. A Canada side that had a slight lull between goals 4 and 5, but no harm, no foul as they lead comfortably and look well on their way to 3 points here. You get your look at some of the goals today. It started with Leah LaRouche in the 5th minute. Ball just fell kindly after a real miscue at the back, the center backs being unable to clear it. And then the floodgates open from there. Sienna Gibson, a terrific first half. Kaylee Hunter scoring the first of 2 goals inside 10 minutes. And then the follow-up, a sensational strike there from Sienna Gibson. The 4th scored by Jada Cullen after assisting the 3rd, and another terrific finish into the top right corner. And then finally, after more pressure from Canada, eventually, after about a 10-minute lull, Kaylee Hunter grabbing her 2nd of the afternoon already. And there has been a lot to smile about for LaRouche so far this afternoon. For Dominica, a chance to learn a lot, potentially try and grab a goal against this formidable Canadian back line that has not been tested yet. And coming in, you would have figured this would be an opportunity for Dominica to test their mettle against the side that is the highest ranked in qualifying, of course, with the U.S. and Mexico exempt. Well, our referee today, Shandor Wilkinson, getting us back underway. If you are just joining us, we welcome you into the capital city of Trinidad and Tobago and Port of Spain at the Ato Boldon Stadium, a 10,000-seat venue named after famous Olympian Ato Boldon out of Trinidad and Tobago. As Chukwu gets free, a low strike, it's loose and tapped in routinely. It's a 2nd for LaRouche and a 6th for Canada. And right out of the hydration break, Canada able to pile it on more. See here, the ball gets played into Annabelle Chukwu. Was trying to find that far left corner, and instead, after it was parried right into the path of LaRouche, the easiest finish she'll have all day. And it is a brace for Leah LaRouche, the Butler University player, who enjoys a terrific start to her qualifying stage.
By Leah LaRouche, not recovered in the 27th minute of game 20.
And now Diamond Daniel is a bit shaken up after the fact. Dominica's captain and leader, who's featured for the senior side. This is a Dominica side with 2 other listed goalkeepers on the team. One of them is playing as an outfield player today in Amisha Henry. So the other option would likely be either Zahir Langford or even Galicia Lockhart. So 2 more options on the bench. Zahir Langford is someone who plays in Dominican football with Mighty Avengers. As things stand, though, it appears they will not make any sort of change just yet. So 6-0. LaRouche and Hunter with braces already for the Canadians. Nurani playing in Chukwu. Flag stays down. Still loose in the box. Cleared only as far as Ava Greco, the Ohio State player, who will lose out to Ford. Gibson again. And this is Ines Narani. Floating it towards Chukwu. Still on it. Colin. Hernandez-Gray. We're through 30 minutes in this first match day of Group E action in the Concacaf Women's U20 qualifiers. It's going about as expected for Canadians, 6-0 to Le Rouge. Narani looking for more. Chukwu lays it off, and there is the 7th for Canada. A hat trick for Leah LaRouche in this first half. Scored Canada's first, now has their 7th, and has a trio of goals just beyond the 30-minute threshold. It starts with Ines Narani, and Chukwu, still causing danger with her run, is able to pick out LaRouche, who can just tuck it calmly into that bottom left corner. And the Canadian barrage continuing. LaRouche, it's her first appearance with the U20 side, has stuck out with the U17s. It does not appear to be remotely difficult for her just yet. Player who was a menace in the club ranks, scored 22 goals at the U16 level in the club ranks in Canada. Of course, winning the Golden Boot with those numbers, that shouldn't surprise anyone. And another corner on the way for Canada. It's without swing from Hernandez-Gray. And Hunter will lose it. Perhaps a chance to break for Lamaya Ford and company. And one that is snuffed out in relatively composed fashion. On LaRouche, a player who played at CF Montreal in Quebec. And it was there that she won that Golden Boot Award as part of a 2023 Quebec Cup title campaign. Rare free kick for Dominica as they look to create some semblance of havoc. Chukwu. And this is Colin in acres of space. Flag will be raised against what appears to be Hernandez-Gray. Well, you see that scoreline? Headlined by the LaRouche hat trick. Surprisingly absent is Chukwu, but having a direct hand in the most recent tally for Canada. And again, it is her presence and just the sheer attention she draws that has opened up opportunities for her teammates. This is a near post effort that is just saved by Daniel. LaRouche had her eyes on number 4 for a moment. From long range this time, and Daniel's able to just get her paws to it, although it did go out for a corner. Approaching the business end of this first half. The result seems anything but in doubt, as Hernandez Gray prepares to take this corner. One Canadian who's already earned her senior debut. To the near post and headed in. Another goal for Canada, make it 8, and it appears Ava Greco the beneficiary. It has become a full-out annihilation in this first half, as you see the brilliant in-swinger, and it is Greco who gets her head to it. A flick on that just skims in to the near post, and Daniel unable to adapt to it. And it's the Ohio State reigning Big Ten all-freshman team selection, Ava Greco, who opens her account for the Canadian U20s. Eight goals for Canada. 5 different players finding their names on the score sheet in this first half. And Cindy Ty's bunch has hardly missed a beat. Coach known for leading Canada deep into Concacaf competitions. Narani now trying to float it, and prematurely thrown by Daniel, and Chukwu will get on the score sheet. Daniel still down. Annabelle Chukwu scoring for the first time this qualifying campaign. You have to feel for Daniel. Has dealt with an onslaught of opportunities for Canada. This a lapse, though, on her part. Narani just floats this awkwardly to the near post, and Daniel, I think, thought it might have gone out for a goal kick. Instead, throwing it right into the path of Chukwu, who has the easiest goal she'll score in potentially her entire youth career. Appeared almost surprised it fell to her feet. And there is the youth goal-scoring record holder tapping it in. Nine for Canada. Annabelle Chukwu, her 29th goal at the youth international level. 14th with the Canadian U20s. And the 18-year-old forward on the score sheet after a first half in which she rarely touched it in threatening positions. Daniel will at least tough it out till halftime, it seems. Well, you get your look at Ato Boldon Stadium, a venue that, as we mentioned, named after former Olympic champion, 8-time medalist. Ato Boldon won the 1997 World Championship in the 200-meter. And it's also a famous venue for Americans for another reason. The site at which the men's national team fell to Trinidad and Tobago in 2-1 fashion in that infamous qualifier in 2017, where perhaps the pitch was a concern given the wet and muddy conditions. But it was a result that forced the United States Soccer Federation to do a lot of reflecting in a rare instance in the modern era in which they missed the World Cup. Right now, Canada having no such upset worries. In fact, they're hunting a 10th. Narani has it deflected out of play, and it will be a goal kick. Slowly approaching the precipice of halftime. And Canada's forwards are getting training ground target practice throughout the bulk of this first half. Narani and Hernandez-Gray, the only non-defenders that have not found the twine just yet for Le Rouge. Here is Hernandez-Gray. Cullen on the overlap. Dances past one. And it will be a Canadian corner. Hernandez-Gray toward the byline. It's a decent looking cutback and one that Hunter skies. A rare missed opportunity for a woman that has a brace already today. Well, 40 gone and 9-0 Canada. Lee LaRouche, the headliner with the hat trick. Kaylee Hunter, a brace. And then 5 other goal scorers, including Annabelle Chukwu most recently. Diamond Daniel has had her hands full and may have more to worry about here. Chukwu brought down in the area. And the referee unfazed by the contact. It'll just be a Canadian corner. Hernandez-Gray without swing. Falls for Hunter. And now Chukwu has a strike. Finally bashed free, only as far as the Canadian goalkeeper, Noelle Hennig, who has rarely had a touch of it today. In fact, since the opening 5 minutes, I don't believe she's even had to worry about a goal kick. Cullen. Space to cross. Falls for Hernandez-Gray, who's left her imprints on this with her ball-winning ability. Hunter. Gibson with plenty of room to cross. It's just behind LaRouche. Gibson again. Darting it inside, and a rare scuffed effort from Hernandez-Gray. May not be able to etch her name on the score sheet before halftime. Issues on the goal kick. Hunter for Chukwu. Just trickles wide. It's the second time we've seen unforced lapses like that at the back, and this one doesn't quite come back to bite Dominica. It's LaRouche who actually pounces on it, and it's just played a little bit outside the reach of Chukwu. Can't steer it on target. Goal kicks, one of the major issues for Dominica in this first half. Have rarely been able to carve out any space going forward. And in many instances, players taking it for Diamond Daniel. As Rosalia Registe mulls over a first half that I don't believe Los Pericos will wish to relive anytime soon. LaRouche, Gibson. Falls for Hunter, and there's the hat trick. A 10th for Canada, and a 3rd for Kaylee Hunter. And it has become an onslaught for LaRouche this afternoon. Right on the stroke of halftime as well. Gibson on the cutback. LaRouche does well to let it run, and Hunter is there to put it away with aplomb. Perhaps Daniel feels she could do a bit better, but her vision clearly impaired. Kaylee Hunter won't be complaining, though. 10-0 Canada. And 2 Canadians with hat tricks in this first half. It'll just be 2 minutes of added time. As this opening 45 will mercifully come to a close for Los Pericos. Gibson roaming forward has created a lot of good opportunities in this first half. And we'll go out of play for yet another Canadian set piece. And perhaps their final for a forward of this first half, one of many. Colin floating it in toward the back post and actually ricochets off the crossbar. Hunter appealing for handball, and the referee does point to the spot. No real hesitation, and it will be a penalty to Canada. Annabelle Chukwu looks content to take it. And no appeals from Hunter, who already has a hat trick to her name. Well, it is Diamond Daniel against the best goal scorer in Canadian Youth International history. Chukwu looking for a brace before intermission. Chukwu against Daniel, and Chukwu comfortably finding the bottom left. 11-0 to Canada, and a brace for Chukwu before the break. No mercy from this Canadian front line. 3 players now with multiple goals for Canada. It's a textbook penalty. Not the best struck, but it's placed very well. And that is where we end things. A dominant first half for Canada, one in which they score 11 goals and 3 players find their names on the score sheet on multiple occasions as the Group E favorites make a statement in the opening 45 minutes. A lot of work to do for Dominica to try to save face in this matchup. Canada right now running away with it in their group opener. We'll step aside when we return to look at the halftime highlights from Port of Spain.
Sorry, 11 Canada, Dominica, 0.
Well, back here from Ato Boldon Stadium in Trinidad and Tobago. Changes both ways here at halftime. A trio of changes for Canada, a duo for Dominica, as both sides look to enjoy a positive second half. Iba Oching replacing Ines Narani. Oching, a listed defender. Kiera Blundell, after her standout season at Arizona State, replacing Chukwu. As Canada surges forward, LaRouche got a touch to it briefly. And the final one, Juliette Perreault replacing Geneva Hernandez-Gray, a standout in that first half. For Dominica, 2 changes. Zariah Pascal will replace Kiana Phillip, player who is a winger, did not enjoy many touches of it. And then the change in goal, Zahir Langford replacing Diamond Daniel between the sticks, who dealt with an adversity-filled first half, a couple of injury scares. They've opted to make the change. This cross comes in off the top of the crossbar. Canada picking up right where they left off here to begin this second half. Perreault's first touch, and it is beyond the reach of Kiera Blundell, who, as we mentioned, at Arizona State was nothing short of dominant. A player who was named Big 12 Freshman of the Year after scoring 9 goals in her debut season in the Big 12. Now looking to carry over that production to the Youth International stage. Gibson all over this shop in that first half. Colin lays this off. This is Greco. Tries from afar and will not test Langford between the sticks. Player who has, in Langford, who has been selected to the U20s once previously, but has not featured until today for Los Pericos Under-20 squad. Gets her opportunity in the second half against a Canada side that has given goalkeepers no time to breathe. LaRouche, a hat trick in the first half, laying it off for Blundell, who taps it in with aplomb. It's Kiera Blundell's first in a Canadian shirt this competition, and the substitute striking with her first touch of the ball. Well, you see here, crafty move from LaRouche, a well-timed run from Blundell, and flashbacks to Big 12 soccer. Times the run perfectly, tucks it in from a tight angle, and Canada leads by 12. Well, Blundell was a star at the Canadian club level before making her way to Arizona State, where she burst onto the scene as a freshman. This is awkwardly cleared, and a rare foray forward for Dominica. Kiera Blundell, of her 9 goals, also added 6 assists. Scored a hat trick against Penn to really announce herself. Has been a goal scorer in sensational form since. LaRouche deployed with more width here in the second half. Picks out Colin. Keeps it in play. Another marauding run forward from Oching. It falls. Not a bad effort from Hunter. Not quite. Someone who had a hat trick in the first half. Still trying to build on that. Both players with hat tricks for Canada still on the pitch at the moment in Kaylee Hunter and Leah LaRouche. Here's Lamaya Ford. It's been the only attack-minded player for Dominica to get proper touches of the ball in this match. But very few of them have been in dangerous areas. She's been forced to come deeper to claim. And boasting little goal threat as a result. Not heard any from Eden Lander just yet, number 11 in Dominica Green, who has already starred for the senior side. Hunter tries one with the outside of the boot. If you are just rejoining us, we welcome you back into Port of Spain in Trinidad and Tobago. We're just outside the capital city of this host nation in Group E action. Canada opening up Group E play, and they lead 12-0. They've spread the wealth well. A couple of players with hat tricks. We saw Annabelle Chukwu get on the score sheet twice before being subbed off at halftime. Canada now able to tuck deeper into its loaded stable of reserves. This is Colin, a mazy run forward. And here's Oching, who impressed last season at Syracuse. Will win a free kick for LaRouge here. There is your look at Iba Oching. She transferred to Iowa this offseason. Was a major feature in the ACC soccer ranks this fall, and it's the dangling boot in the end from Zariah Pascal which draws the referee's ire. Hook towards the back post. Blundell got her head to it, just over the crossbar. Canada has yet to test Zahir Langford as substantially as they did Daniel. Not a bad header here, though, from Blundell, who was able to free herself from her defender. Just got underneath it a touch. And what a luxury it has to be able to trot out your all-time youth international leading scorer, sub her off at halftime, and bring on someone who proved herself as an elite goal scorer in the American college ranks, which features some of the top talents not only in the country, but now around the globe. A lot of players who have opted to play there. Now Blundell gets free. It may have been Russell who tapped it in the end, but it won't matter. It's 13-0 Canada. It is Kaylee Hunter, who is credited. Blundell gets free, Hunter tapping it in. And a 13th for LaRouge, a 4th for Hunter in this match. It's a great run there from Blundell, who was aiming for the target, and instead Kaylee Hunter tapping it in for security. 55 minutes gone. Scoreline is all that matters. Canada with its second of this second half. And we begin the final 45 like the first 45 went.
Kaylee Hunter in the 51 minutes of gameplay.
Blundell, this is still loose. And now Perot. Gibson. LaRouche. may have been caught between two minds. She does win a corner for Canada. She's in a bit of a goal race with Kaylee Hunter. Both had hat tricks in the first half. Hunter with the fourth moments ago. Now Oching pinging it in. Dominica holding their lines for the time being. You see the sheer breadth of goal scorers on the screen right now for Canada. 7 different players finding the twine. 2 different players with hat tricks, and Hunter with a 4-piece so far. Okiki is charging further forward. Hunter, another quarter on the way. Outswinger. Okiki got her head to it and will run it right back. Juliette Perreault be getting to pick up where Geneva Hernandez-Gray left off in the first half as the team's lead corner taker. Falls for Hunter. And this time from the opposite flank. We rapidly approach the hour mark. And Canada right now in a race against itself, trying to figure out how many goals they can blast in the back of the net. This falls for Hunter, team's leading goal scorer, at least in this match. Oching. Low cross. It's still loose, lashing at it now, and this time Langford's able to pounce on it and coping with the Canadian pressure a bit more confidently here. It is a busy day around Concacaf U20 women's qualifiers. A lot of key results to report. Haiti defeating Antigua and Barbuda 3-1 in Group A. And Antigua and Barbuda doing themselves justice in that match. A team that was the 5th lowest ranked team in this qualifying competition against a Haiti side ranked 5th. And at least holding their own. Right now, Haiti, though, atop Group A after Guyana and Belize drawing 0-0. At halftime, it was 1-0 Panama against Cuba in Group C. So that's the other action around the women's qualifiers this week. Of course, the competition beginning yesterday and running through the 25th of February as we look to find out the additional 6 teams that will be joining the United States and Mexico in this year's CONCACAF U20 Women's Championship. Canada right now looks content and with intent to try to make their way there. As Oching pinging it off the hand of a Dominica defender, and another spot kick on the way. And without hesitation, Kaylee Hunter looking for a 5th. We see Oching here make her way into the area, hand in an unnatural position. There's no debate about that. And it is Kian George who is penalized for it. So Hunter will square off against Langford. Canadian side that's already converted 1 spot kick today. Hunter hunting a fifth. And she'll convert. 5 goals for Kaylee Hunter this afternoon. And a dream start to her U20 qualifying campaign. Canada not facing much resistance at all when they surge forward. And Hunter, no challenges on this penalty kick, placing it with perfection in the left side netting. And has 5 of Canada's 14 just beyond the hour mark. It not only appears that the Canadians will win this in convincing fashion, it appears reasonably evident that they will top Group A at the end of today's proceedings in Trinidad and Tobago. Can Dominica salvage anything going forward as Lander is sent tumbling to the deck? A rare touch of the ball in a dangerous spot for her in the Dominican squad today. She is the player to watch for Dominica outside of Lamaya Ford at 17 years of age. Someone who scored Dominica's only penalty in the Jewels of Caribbean match against Trinidad and Tobago in December. Competition in which Dominica frankly struggled. They will get their shot at redemption, though, against Trinidad and Tobago later in group play. The deliveries on set pieces have not been enough to test Noelle Hennig, though. Oching. Is there more in store for Canada? Collins cross, another corner. Two more changes on the way for the Canadians. It appears the duo of April Lantane and Natalie L. Mokbul will get set to enter the action. And that is Kaylee Hunter's day. Will exit to a deserved applause from her teammates. Hunter a 5 spot in her first U20 qualifying match of the campaign. And her hat-trick partner, Leah LaRouche, will also exit. So the 2 top goal scorers for Canada leave. And 2 more talents enter. Here's the first touch from Natalie El Mokbel. The Quebec native will win her side a free kick on the edge of the area, so a productive first involvement. El Mokbel, a Long Beach State commit who has impressed during her time with CF Montreal's academy. A native of Montreal, as you get one more look at the standout performer of the afternoon, Kaylee Hunter. At just 17 years of age, number 7 has a 5 spot. Not to mention winning the penalty that led to Chukwu's spot kick finish late in the first half. It's the substitute El Mokbel that stands over this. She'll try it herself, and it finds its way in. A 15th for Canada. And with her first kick of the ball, Natalie El Mokbel with a terrific free kick. It looked to be a relatively routine stop for Langford, but she got wrong-footed. And a 5-star start for Natalie El Mokbel's day. Langford completely mistimes it And the substitute has an excellent free kick goal. Canada with 15 goals through 65 minutes. Blundell through on goal. It's an excellent stop from Langford. Well, it's a redemption after struggling to stop Natella Mokbel's free kick effort moments ago, but now appears to be in considerable pain after the challenge. This appears to be quite a concerning sight. Get another look here. She just runs right into Blundell, trying to close down the angle. And it seems to be something around the hip area where she's feeling the pain. Takes us to a hydration break anyways. But some concern for Dominica, as they've already subbed off their starting goalkeeper and only have one more in the wings at the moment. That would be Galicia Lockhart. At the moment, you figure Rosalia Registe is just hoping to instill some confidence in her team to get forward. We've seen so little of that this afternoon. They've been overrun in many respects by the Canadians. As the cooling break comes to a pretty quick close, and Canada will ready themselves for yet another set piece. Natel El Mokbel scoring the terrific free kick moments ago. In swinger towards Blundell, and she will finish with her head this time. A second for the Arizona State product. Every training ground routine is working to perfection right now for the Canadians. It's a brace for Blundell. This is a textbook corner kick. Delivered straight to her head, places it very well and beyond the outstretched reach of Langford, who's back into the action after the injury scare and at full extension unable to stop it. 16 goals for Canada in this Group E opener. We still have 20+ minutes of action to go. We do have a set piece here for Dominica, and their previous deliveries have lacked accuracy. They'll go for direct for goal this time, but Henning will watch it sail comfortably wide. And it has been an afternoon of frustration for Eden Lander and company. Players known for their dynamism going forward who have had no real opportunity to show it. On the other side of things, Canada has put virtually every player to touch the pitch in a threatening position. Natel El-Mokbel, the last to score for the Canadians. Blundell, flag is raised as she hunts her hat trick. Well, if you are just joining us, we welcome you into Trinidad and Tobago. The capital city of Port of Spain is where we bring you this action this afternoon. At Ato Boldon Stadium, the home of the Trinidad and Tobago national team. 16-0 Canada. 2 players with hat tricks both off the pitch at the moment. A well-dispersed goal-scoring effort. Gibson. This is Oching. Pick out Cullen, who's down in the area, appealing for a penalty. Instead, she's greeted with a goal kick. Well, hearing word, it is still a 1-0 advantage for Panama over Cuba in Group C action. That the most narrowly contested of our live matches at the moment in the Concacaf U20 women's qualifiers. I've had a couple standout moments. The Haiti-Antigua and Barbuda game delivering more than perhaps many would have expected. The highest ranked team in Group A, nudging past the lowest ranked team, 3-1. This has been in no such jeopardy as that cross deflected dangerously and out for yet another Canadian corner. As Zahir Langford still looking to shake off some of the after effects of that earlier coming together with Blundell. It's an awkward cross, and it's one that Langford can't claim. Nearly paid the price for it. Oching. El-Mokbel scored that lovely free kick minutes ago. And it runs through to Kiera Blundell, the most recent Canadian to find the back of the twine. Attractive ball in. Oching. Gibson now. El-Mokbel strikes. Still loose, and Oching cleans up the mess. Another substitute on the score sheet for Canada. And right now, the Canadians have their sights on 20. It is 17-0 Le Rouge. See, El-Mokbel has the strike, and it deflects awkwardly. Langford's unable to claim and pays the price. And Iba Oching, the Syracuse product that has recently transferred to Iowa, getting in on the goal-scoring party from defense.
Number 4, Iba Oching of Canada. His goal was made in the 7th.
We approach the final quarter of an hour, and Canada's forays forward still don't seem remotely close to subsiding. Oching, the goal scorer moments ago. Blundell, still with it. And it falls kindly, loose for El-Mokbel, who dispatches with comfort and make it 18. Natel El-Mokbel a brace off the bench. Another player in multi-goal territory. This time the 17-year-old forward out of Montreal. Natel El-Mokbel, a product of CF Montreal, who is impressing in her U20 debut. You see Blundell just keeping this afloat, and again, a failed clearance, awkward deflections, and El-Mokbel benefits from that. We are now finally in the final quarter of an hour. And right now, it appears academic except for can Dominica put some pressure on Noelle Hennig's goal, something they've failed to do all afternoon. Here's El Mokbel, most recent goal scorer. Lantain with plenty of space. A chipped cross, Blundell, it's deflected at the second time off the post, and Collin adding a 19th for Canada. A second for the Wisconsin Badger. Well, you see Lantain's cross, it's a dangerous one, and the problem has been Dominica late to first and second balls. How about third balls? This is right into the path of Jada Collin, and makes no mistakes about it. Goalkeeper out of net, routine finish, and that has been the unfortunate story of this match so often for the Dominicans.
That was goal for Canada, scored by
Last to pretty much every 50-50, and it's reflected on the score sheet. Gibson and now Collin, both fullbacks with plenty of creative leeway at this point. And it's impressive from Collin, dinging it towards Blundell. Did decently to get her head to it, but nothing more. Well, this is unlike any match you'll probably see in qualifiers this campaign. Canada on the precipice of a 20 spot. Scored 11 in the first half. They've added 8 more here in the second with plenty of time remaining. And it's been an unfortunate mismatch for neutral viewing. But the Canadians making a clear statement of intent as they look to qualify for yet another Concacaf U20 championship. Something they've never failed to do. The only times they haven't participated in it is when they've hosted the U20 Women's World Cup. Here's a long-range effort, one that will not test Langford in the end. It's worth a hit if you're Janet Okiki. Greco. El Mokbel craftily past one. And space to cross. Lantain. Blundell. Trying for the crafty solo goal, it seems. Well, the numbers do jump off the page in this match. A Dominica side that, of course, did not manage a goal in the last qualifying wave, but the goal difference was minus 27 across 4 matches. Already at minus 19 in this match, and Canada continuing to threaten with 10 to play. Here's Greco's ball, and Collin is just offside. It's unfortunate because she had a number of options in the box for easy tap-ins if the flag stayed down. Some last-ditch changes for Dominica. Khalees Shillingford and Kamara Felix are the women that enter. Amisha Henry is one of those that vacate. Well, Kian George the other to exit the action with 10 to play. Shillingford was a key member of that Jewels of the Caribbean team with the senior side in 2024 in December. Jamara Felix also playing a key role throughout the Dominican national team ranks. Here's Lantane's cross. Nearly fell for Colin and instead out for another corner. Felix more attack-minded and one of the top players in the DFA Women's Premier League for Harlem United, one of the better sides in that division. She'll get her opportunity off the bench as El Mokbel to deliver this in-swinger. It's headed off the crossbar this time.
Substitutions for Dominica.
By no means a shabby effort from Stephanie Schuley, the Providence College player.
Out number 18, Amicia Henry. In number 4, Kellis Shillingford. Out number 4.
It's turned over.
Keegan.
El Mokbel cut back towards Blundell. Now has another crack and a little too much altitude. It's not a bad second opportunity. You saw that El Mokbel trying to wrap her boot around it and just got underneath it a touch. She still awaits that elusive hat trick, it seems. Colin. Cutting it back. Not the best contact from Sienna Gibson. Lantane. Greco. Well inside the final 10 minutes here from Ato Boldon Stadium in Trinidad and Tobago.
95.
And as things stand, Canada well on its way to topping Group E at the end of match day 1. Of course, there is the small matter of another match to attend to coming up shortly after this one. Cross comes in, loose again. Schuley this time venturing forward and committing the transgression in the process. You see this Dominican defense just dealing with all the wear and tear of this Canadian pressure. As mentioned previously, while this surely puts Canada atop Group E, the matter of their challengers will be decided in about an hour's time. Trinidad and Tobago, the hosts, taking on Bermuda in what should be on paper a more appetizing tussle between two similarly ranked foes. Trinidad and Tobago would be, on paper, the side expected to make more noise in this competition. Certainly the one that neutrals would tip to challenge Canada more. Although, with a performance like this, you wonder if anyone in qualifying gets close. St. Rose is slowly back to her feet. Oching has space to have a crack. Not much more than that. Blundell. And it just ran out of play. (19-0) Canada. Inside the final 5 minutes from Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago. And it's been one-way traffic the entire contest. Cross towards El Mokbel, who still hunts that hat trick. 2 Canadians currently on the score sheet with hat tricks, both off the pitch. Lee LaRouche, who opened the scoring in the 5th, has a hat trick, as does Kaylee Hunter, who was subbed off shortly after scoring her 5th from the penalty spot in the second half. El Mokbel takes a studs-up tackle and one that got the ball first. It's been a chance for Canadian forwards to get their finishing practice in. It's been 90 minutes of frustration for Dominica. Los Pericos with very few touches of it in the attacking third, as Blundell gets her head to it and tacks on another. Kira Blundell with a hat trick in her U20 debut, and Canada with 20 on the afternoon. Well, in her first U20 call-up, she's made noise off the bench. Her second goal with a header, and Blundell in the right spot on a corner again. No chance for Langford as the free header finds its way into the net. Blundell makes it 20-0 Canada. One of the more lopsided qualifying results you will see.
Goal for Canada.
El Mokbel looking to become the 4th Canadian with a hat trick. Instead, playing it back for Gibson. Got underneath it. We said it at halftime. This is a statement. Canada would have known entering today they'd be heavily favored. But they have swiped aside the Dominicans with complete comfort. Los Pericos will be back to the drawing board as they'll prepare for a match with the 2nd highest ranked team in the group Sunday against Trinidad and Tobago, the hosts. So it doesn't get much easier. Oching weaving into the box. And more set piece practice before this comes to a close for Dominica. El Mokbel in space. There's the hat trick. Natel El Mokbel off the bench. A trio of goals to her name. And doing it inside the final 25 minutes. Fourth Canadian to procure a hat trick this afternoon, and this is from a tight angle. Ridiculous finish, finding that top right corner. 21-0. Canada putting Dominica to the sword on occasion after occasion here in what has been the most comprehensive display by any team throughout the young qualifying phase.
Ladies and gentlemen, the court official on the sideline has indicated that there will be a minimum of 2 minutes of added time in the second.
Just 2 minutes of added time. And the most lopsided result we've seen in any sort of Concacaf qualifying was a 22-0 win by the United States U17 team over the U.S. Virgin Islands. That is what Canada would be playing for. It would be surprising to see anyone in the U20 qualifiers outpace Canada in terms of dominance of victory, as El Mokbel draws the offside flag. Perhaps time for one final sojourn ahead for Le Rouge. It won't make much of a difference in terms of final result. Colin has space for Gibson, falls for El Mokbel, make it a fourth. And Canada with a 22-0 lead late. 2 goals beyond the 90-minute threshold for Natel El Mokbel. And that may be the final tally to seal it for the Canadians. And that is the final whistle. Canada with 11 in each half. They win 22-0 and cruise atop Group E to open the action here in Trinidad and Tobago today. The Canadians, 4 players with hat tricks, fueled by Kaylee Hunter's 5-piece. And it was a comprehensive display that will surely be unmatched by any team in this competition. It finishes Canada 22, Dominica 0, as we will take a quick breather before jumping into the full-time highlights. Stick with us here on this coverage from Trinidad and Tobago.
Be the first one to watch the highlights of this game in our official YouTube channel at Concacaf. Concacaf gratefully acknowledges the outstanding support of the tournament partners, Aramco, Molten, PIF, Real Air, Scotiabank, and Macro. Remember, we still have another game for this evening, Trinidad versus Bermuda at 7 o'clock. So make sure and stay tuned.
Time to look at our full-time highlights from Trinidad and Tobago this afternoon, where Canada wins 22-0 to open play in Group E, and it got started fast. Leah LaRouche opening the scoring in the 5th minute, and the floodgates opening from there. That was Kaylee Hunter, who added 5 throughout the afternoon to power Canada to victory, a team that seemingly put everyone on the pitch in the score sheet. In fact, it was relatively close. The only players that didn't score were their center backs. You see this cross coming from Colin, who found Kaylee Hunter again, who pretty crafty finish there first time. One of many for her, and then Annabelle Chukwu got involved before Leah LaRouche tapped it in for her second. Chukwu began to announce her presence towards the later stages of the first half before she was subbed off at halftime. It's going to be a day to remember for Canadian football fans as LaRouche, you see her hat trick. A team that hardly let Dominica touch the ball, let alone touch it in dangerous positions. And on the other end of the pitch, just bombarded their opposing keepers to the point where virtually every player got a chance on a set piece or out of open play. It was a disjointed Dominican back line that struggled, and you see here, this was the really most frustrating of the lot. Diamond Daniel thinking it went out of play, Annabelle Chukwu getting on the score sheet, and moments later would add a brace from the penalty spot. But before that, more goals. You see this time it was Kaylee Hunter who added her hat trick sealing goal in the first half. Don't worry, there were more to come for her as she won the penalty kick with the handball, and Chukwu added her brace before intermission. We took a break at 11-0, and then it picked right back up. Kiera Blundell tacking on a goal pretty much 3 minutes after the restart, and it was more of the same for Canada in the second half. Kaylee Hunter adding the fourth after Blundell's effort found its way into her path, and then the fifth from the penalty spot after the handball. It was a moment of highlights. You see Natel El Mokbel, perhaps the most eyebrow-raising goal, the most thrilling one, I should say, from a free kick, and then delivering this picture-perfect corner kick on a Blundell's head. And then El Mokbel began to take over in the final 25 minutes. This effort loose, Oching tapping it home, and then El Mokbel would produce 2 more goals to make it 4 for her on the afternoon. It was a tough day to be Diamond Daniel or Zahir Langford because they were constantly under fire and there wasn't much opportunity for them to find teammates going forward as Dominica's back line was under constant pressure and never really won enough balls to play out from the back. As you saw here, Colin adding her second after the tenacity from Kiera Blundell, who would eventually secure a hat trick for herself as well. And from the corner, this would do it. That was the second, I believe, for Blundell, and then she had another shortly thereafter. And then El Mokbel, some late heroics at the end of the match, this in the 90th minute, and then in stoppage time, the final blow for Canada. Well placed, and that sealed the result with the final kick of the game, where it finished Canada 22, Dominica 0. And the highlights pretty much summarize the game. One-way traffic, Canada in full control. So that takes us to our look at Group E. Where do we stand after one match? Well, this is your answer. Canada topping the group with a plus 22 goal difference. Dominica a minus 22 goal difference. Remember, they were minus 29 throughout the entirety of their group stage last cycle. Right now, it's looking bleak in terms of potentially overperforming those numbers. We will have Trinidad and Tobago and Bermuda next to decide where the final where we end things in Group E after the first match day. Well, that is our production today. Canada winning 22-0 over Dominica. We will step aside briefly, but stick with us. Trinidad and Tobago and Bermuda to close out Group E, the nightcap, when we return here from Port of Spain. Thank you for joining us. Stick with us for more action going forward.